Welcome back, listeners. We've just been killing it with Justin from Green Planet Nutrients. Then we have Andrew heads over. We're going to properly get into the details of Terpinator and the GeoPot, which we just discussed with Justin. So hang tight. They're coming at us with some slick rhymes. I've just heard an amazing freestyle, so keep listening. We're going to hear a freestyle very soon.
Really building things up for me, big guy. So my name's Andrew.
You're going to kill it. I'm going to give you a word. Let's start. GeoPot, keeping it hot. Take it away.
Not gonna have pithy or more root rot. If you really want to move to the top, gotta use the GeoPot, #1 fabric pot on the market. Where I'm gonna park it in my room, consume all my nutrients, making sure that my transpiration is on point. Can I get this, gents? Can you feel what I meant? Can you feel the way that a Northern California resident can get down in the UK? Hey, Terpinator on my plant's way.
Well, that is a first for NPK Live. This is what happens when you bring the US over to talk onto our show. That is unreal. Welcome, Andrew.
Yeah, that kind of hit me off surprise. How's it going? This is Andrew with Left Coast Garden Wholesale, coming in to represent the GeoPots, the Terpinator. Terpinator you can find through Green Planet Nutrients up there in Canada as well as the United States. Great Lake Wholesale, HID, Easy Grow out here in the UK and Europe. GeoPots you can find through us, Left Coast Garden Wholesale, Great Lakes. We got Green Planet. We can also find... Newly, you can find in the UK, GeoPots with HID, long-standing friendship, new product. So yeah, what would you like me to start with, Stephen?
You know what? I'm really, really into Terpinator. I was saying to Justin, just on our previous podcast, that I'm hearing a lot of great things about Terpinator. HID keep on coming over and saying, listen, are you on this product? And I'm saying, no, I haven't actually got the product yet, but the amount of people that are coming to me and saying, listen, get this Terpinator. When so many people start saying about a product, you got to stand up and listen. This is me, standing up and listening. Tell us what Terpinator's about.
Most definitely, and I'm really glad to hear that because I actually brought you a sample, Stephen.
Oh, very nice. That's what you like.
You can run it yourself, so you can let your listeners know how it's working.
Good stuff.
All right, so kind of to start about the Terpinator, essentially what it does is increase the amount of terpenes that your plants are going to produce. Terpenes are responsible for smells, flavors, pigments, resin content of plants. There's about 200,000 different terpenes in the plant world that have been identified. You know, when you smell a pine tree, what you're smelling is alpha-pinene, it's a terpene. When you're smelling lavender, what you're smelling is linalool, it's also a terpene. So a lot of the different medicinal effects from different plants actually come from, it's kind of called the entourage effect. A lot of them work in conjunction with each other to create a stronger whole. So that's just a little basis on kind of what terpenes are. So like I said, it's totally organic. Essentially what it does is it helps to increase the enzymatic pathways that lead to terpene production.
And the great thing about Terpinator, which I was told about, is that no matter what your nutrient regime, it doesn't matter. Terpinator can be added with any nutrient regime. You're not going to get lockout. All you're going to get is great quality aromas, smells, taste, and I can't wait to try it. I really can't. I'm about to do a big test with lavender, and what I'll be doing is I'll be extracting oil. So we're going to be doing a side-by-side. We're going to be growing lavender in a 2 metre by 2 metre square tent on a base nutrient, doing that across both tents. In one tent, though, using Terpinator, and then I will be extracting those oils and being able to see firsthand what the Terpinator does and how well it does it.
Perfect. And you could run like a gas chromatography test on there and really get it scientific.
Scientific.
Brother.
Well, if Eric from Garden Culture wants to have it published, I'm going to have to take it deep science because he will only publish my really good scientific in-depth work, so I'm really going to have to pull out all the stops for him to publish this one. But if it comes off, it's going to be a great write-up. You'll probably see it in around the September-October issue of Garden Culture, as long as Eric wants to put it in there and it's good enough and it's scientific enough. Can't wait to write about it, because I know I'm going to do the test, but the amount of people that I respect and have a lot of respect for in the industry are telling me just good things about Terpinator.
Well, I brought you one sample. It sounds like I might have to bring back a few more.
Oh, you might have to bring a couple, yeah.
But like you were saying, I mean, it's a very easy-to-use product. You know, it's not going to kill off any of your soil biology. It's not going to kill off any mycorrhizae because it is organic. It does have it has enzymes that work in conjunction with your soil web. pH is about 6.1. So very easy to use. I mean, the most I've ever seen it raise parts per million is by about 150 when you're running at full strength.
And with EC, so some people are parts per million, some people are EC. So obviously, if it only raises your parts per million by a little bit, it just goes really without saying. It's only going to raise your
not going to raise it all that much either. Yeah. And what I really enjoy about it is basically there's a lot of different ways to use it. When you look on the bottle, it's somewhat vague with the instructions. So if it's okay with you, I'd love to kind of give you what we've found is some of kind of the best ratio of using it.
Go ahead, that'd be
most
great.
efficient way to really run it, just to kind of put it in concrete for you.
Yeah, go for it.
So sometimes people, see it as being a bloom enhancer, a flowering additive, and so they wonder why we say to run it in veg. It makes sense. I kind of questioned it at first as well. Essentially, you want to run it about 7 to 10 days before you flip into flowering stages. You really don't have to run it too hard. Run it about maybe 10 milliliters per gallon or 2.5 milliliters per liter.
Very nice.
And what that's going to do is it's going to basically get it into the cellular tissue. It's going to get it ready there, just ready to work for you. So when you go into flower and you flip, it's already there, ready to go. What we found is it physically produces more gland sites.
Yeah, so what I like to do is put it into a different context to help people understand. So what we're saying is, when we were all young, we were growing up from toddlers, calcium built our bones and allowed us great stability for adulthood. So what we're saying is we're using Terpinator in the young stages of the plant's life to enable it to produce an amazing aroma and glands and trichomes. And so we're basically setting the plant up for the rest of its life to produce great quality produce.
Exactly. Once it's already there, when the growth does start to happen, it's ready to work. It's already in the system.
How long's Terpinator been on the market for?
It's been out for about a year and a half or so. So really, it's a pretty young product. We've been seeing great success with it, but it's really proud of it. It's a great one. I personally run it. I love it. Every single person I know who grows professionally uses it. It's one of those things that once you try, you really can't go without using it.
And that says a lot, actually, that the product, because you've surprised me there, saying that the product's only been out for a year and a half, because for a product to have been out for a short amount of time, a year and a half, and we in the UK, I've definitely heard about it. I imagine a lot of our listeners have heard about it. That stands out, because that says quite a lot about the product, that it's already getting loads of coverage. And Justin was saying before that you don't market as other companies do. You let word of mouth and the quality of the product speak for itself. So the fact that it's out there after a year and a half says a lot. So well done on that. I can't wait to get it tested.
It's a great product. It was in development by Dr. Dave. He's literally a doctor, and he's developed many other products that are out there on the market. And it was his brainchild. He'd been working on it for about 6 or 7 years before it was actually released. So it had a lot of forethought behind it. Has a lot of scientific background behind it. But back to the actual use during flowering, what we found is the most effective rates to use it are about, cost efficiency for benefit ratio, really. You could run it at 30 milliliters per gallon, you're going to get the most results. But for some people, it gets a little costly. So what we recommend is about 15 to 20 mils per gallon, from weeks 1 through week 4. Weeks 4 and 5, we found are the most important to kind of spike it up. That's where you're going to want to run it at 25, 30 mils per gallon. Then you can cut it back down to the other level. You can run it through flush. It's completely safe. Works great that way. You can also cut it out if you really like to make sure you do a very clean flush. Cut your nutrients back to like a sixth of the normal strength, so you're actually still pulling those salts out of your medium. But that's the way that we've kind of found you're going to get for cost-benefit ratio analysis, whatever you want to call it. That's kind of the most efficient way to run it.
So for the growers that are cost-sensitive, you'd say start light and get heavy into weeks 4 and 5 and then ease off again. And for somebody who just wants the best quality produce and is not cost sensitive,
run it at 30 all the way through.
All the way through, from veg all the way through flower until you flush.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And this product, anybody can use it?
Anyone can use it. That's the easiest thing about it. We've literally poured it on plants for 2 weeks at a time. And it's not complete nutrition for a plant, so they're not going to love it. But it's not going to kill it. It's not going to burn. You don't have to worry about any kind of bizarre nutrient reactions, which is interesting. It's one of those things kind of like mycorrhizae. It's one of those things that will work with your nutrient system. Mycorrhizae, obviously, you don't want to get your phosphorus levels up too high or anything. But it's a very versatile product. It'll work with any nutrient line out there. I obviously have my favorite products that I like to run it with. One of them is massive. You know, I use the Massive for the quantity, I use the Terpinator for the quality, and they work very symbiotically together.
Yeah, we were talking just with Justin about the Massive, and that's an endorsement of the product again from Andrew here. So the Massive,
I use it, I love it.
Massive and Terpinator, and you use those two together, and you're seeing fantastic results.
Use them together. I mean, you want to cut back your phosphorus and potassium and stuff a little bit when you're running the Massive with the Terpinator and stuff. Just cut it back maybe a quarter or third or so. But yeah, really great results. I mean, the Massive, I've never seen anything like it for secondary branching, stuff like that. I really enjoy Massive. I mean, just for the stretching of the internodes. But it's not a tall, lanky stretching like I've seen with other products, you know. Just kind of stretches things out and really lets them fill in really nice. Finisher also works pretty good for that too. But yeah, and they work very good together. Secondary branching I saw with the Massive just really bulked up. But with the Terpinator, I mean, you know, some of my favorite things about Terpinator is so many people don't understand how important terpenes really are. Terpenes are inside of trichomes. The more terpenes you have, the larger trichomes you have. For people who are doing essential oil extractions, a lot of people are getting 10% more on their extractions from using Terpinator to not using Terpinator.
And that's great news for me.
Oh, people buy new extraction machines to kind of get that, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, when you want to look at shelf life of your precious flowers, every single time you open up a jar of curing flowers, what you're getting hit with is volatilizing terpenes. You know, when you don't get an infinite amounts of jar open, loud smell, you know? With the Terpinator, you're going to get more of those smells, though. You know, it comes in really important. And I mean, just shelf life, quality, smell, taste, I mean, it's kind of across the board.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that the Terpinator is a unique product. There's no other product like it on the market either, is there?
There were just no other product on the market. I mean, you might have, you know, somebody tell you that their product works very similarly, but I can guarantee you that it works, for the most part, on a completely different level. You know, there's a lot of different products that will promote resins and stuff like that, which look great. It looks awesome. It's not really terpenes that it's producing, though. It's a little bit of a different process. So, yeah, I can confidently sit here and say, you know, Terpinator is very unique and, you know, stand behind it.
Awesome. If our listeners want to get a little bit more information about Terpinator, what website should they head to?
I would honestly say Terpinator.com is a good resource, or check out our Facebook page, and you can always send us messages on there. You know, we're very good about responding to that. You know, Instagram, Terpinator, Left Coast Wholesale on Instagram as well. We got a lot of different kind of outlets that you can reach us on.
Awesome. So check those out if you want a bit more information on Terpinator, because we're going to jump over to slightly different side of growing plants now and have a little chat about the GeoPot. Again, we discussed this with Justin just 10 minutes ago, but we're going to go into a little bit more detail now. Why is this GeoPot? What's so good about it?
I mean, essentially, GeoPots is kind of our bread and butter. It's where we got our start. You know, I mean, GeoPot and Rhizoflora are separate companies, but we're very, very closely related. So essentially, with different fabric pots, the GeoPot, it's a very thick fabric.
Yeah, we've got these in our hands now.
You can feel how durable it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not planning on breaking down on you after 3 years, you know, or 3 cycles, you know? I mean, there's a lot of different fabric pots on the market now. I mean, we were one of the, second ones to come out with them. But, I mean, ours, quadruple stitch using marine thread. This is designed for sailboats. If you ever live by the coast, if you have a car by the coast, the seawater can literally strip the paint off of your car. So having a thread that's designed for those type of elements means that when it's out in the rain and sun, or when it's under, you know, HID lighting and nutrient salts hitting it and stuff, it's not going to break down you. It's very strong.
As I'm looking at this pot as well, I've noticed something that you haven't got, which cheaper ones do have. Now, bear with me on this. You have no stitching around the outside. Now, you'll notice with the cheap fabric pots, they have the stitching which clumps together, and for me that's a breeding ground for pathogens, all the little nooks and crannies, and they can live in there, and if you've got any disease, then they're going to get into these little nooks and crannies and really make your roots life a nightmare. But what we've got here with the GeoPot is no folds on the inside, so it's really nice and clean. There's very minimal stitching, there's only stitching where there needs to be. And the fact that it opens as well is something I've never seen before in a fabric pot. We can Velcro, incredibly strong, so it's not just going to come out, it's not just going to come open when you don't want it to. Oh, listen to that Velcro.
That's our transplanter motor. That feels really good.
That was sexy.
Give it. It's very gratifying.
Let's have a go.
That's our transplanter model. We kind of came out with that because, for fabric pots, it's very difficult for, 1 or 2 gallon that you kind of put your starts into. When you're up potting to actually get it out of there, you're ripping the roots, you're causing a little bit of stress. So what we did is we put in that really super heavy-duty Velcro in there. I love it. I give the root ball a little light watering. Kind of helps keep everything intact, And when you transplant, you just do that. You just scoop it up, transplant to your next container.
It just makes everyone's life super easy. And again, I'm going to go back to what Justin was saying, is the hardest thing to do is make something simple. And you have done it. You have made it simple. It's a Velcro strip that just doesn't come loose when you don't need it to, meaning your media is going to fall everywhere. It's super strong. But when you need to transplant, lift the flap up, pull it down. There we go. There's a super sexy crunch. And you can transplant with ease out it. And again, I'm going to say, with this, I imagine that you're not going to damage the root ball that you've worked so hard to produce. With this Velcro, you can transplant. You're not going to damage the roots that you've achieved. I like this. I'm looking at this product again for the first time today. I'm investigating it. And the guys, the listeners, our subscribers, they know I don't pull me punches. If it was shit, I'd say to you, it's shit. It's not. This is a good pot. I like it. I'm impressed.
Yeah. That, and one thing I really like to do when I'm transplanting as well is use a little bit of fulvic acid as a foliar. Yeah. And I've noticed with using those pots and using some fulvic acid as a foliar, you go look at your room or you go look outside the next day, and honestly, no transplant shock.
Yeah, and that's important to keep your plant running at 100%. Try and minimise that transplant shock. So the fulvic's helping with reducing transplant shock.
Yeah.
Okay, I like to pick up when you come out with. So we have our people that come onto the show. You come out with great little nuggets of information, and I just like to hit them home for our listeners. So if you're transplanting, maybe have a little think about using some fulvic acid, and this is going to reduce the transplant shock and give you an overall vigor and health in your plant that is visible in the next few days that you should see.
It's quick. I mean, it's like, honestly, I use it all the time, because it just, you see your plants start praying real quick. You do it 3 hours later, everything's very, very happy.
Everything's pet.
Fulvic acid's great for the human body. Fulvic acid is really an interesting thing. I mean, you can use fulvic acid for hangovers. You can use fulvic acid for all kinds of stuff.
You US are crazy. I can imagine you down in a bottle of fulvic acid. It was a heavy evening last night. I'm going to get some fulvic acid.
You got to buy the human grade.
Human grade fulvic acid.
I love the hydroponic industry, but I'm not going to drink the fulvic acid.
Yeah, don't drink the fulvic acid from the hydroponics industry.
Yeah.
Go and get some.
I am not endorsing that one. Do not tell me to do that one.
What sizes are these pots coming in?
We go from a half gallon all the way up to 1,000 gallons in size.
1,000 gallons? That's like...
It takes almost 5 yards of soil to fill one of those. It's about 9 feet across.
Are we talking like great oaks in these pots?
20 feet. Depends on how big you want your plants to get. It's very difficult. You got to put a lot of forethought into being able to fill out a 1,000-gallon pot. For the most part, we're based in Northern California, so we sell a lot of 100-gallon, 200-gallon, 400-gallon, 600-gallon sizes. 1,000's a little big. We make tons of different models. We make them in tan for warm climates. Because one of the big things about breathable fabrics is that essentially they're 10 to 15 degrees cooler than a plastic pot's going to be. Then you factor in the tan. The tan's going to be about 10 degrees cooler than that. So it's about 25 degrees cooler for your root zone than being in a plastic pot. And when you're in an area that's, 110 degrees, even keeping your roots down at like 85 degrees is clutch. It's, roots like to be cool.
Yeah,
just like people, we like to keep it cool,
Yeah. Would you recommend, so if any of our listeners are still using plastic pots, would you recommend that we just need to move away from plastic pots and start getting into fabric pots or something that is allowing the roots to breathe a lot easier?
I can honestly say this. I see no real reason to be using plastic pots anymore. When it kind of goes, something I didn't really go into is what we like to call air root pruning. With the completely breathable fabric pot, when your roots hit the edge of the container in a plastic pot, they hit the edge and they start wrapping around. It leads to root rot and just bad things. That's when you have girdle trees. If you grow a tree and say a 10-gallon bucket, 10-gallon plastic pot, and you transplant it in the ground and it has root-bound roots, it's going to be ruined for life. You can try to trim them back as much, but it usually catches up down the line. With this, it tries to grow through the fabric. It gets exposed to the air, and since the root can't live in air alone, it's kind of like topping a plant. You divert that growth. So instead of having the big white roots, which are the tap roots, you start putting out feeder roots. A lot smaller, a lot more fibrous, but more efficient taking in nutrients as well as water. So you end up having this fibrous root mat that just completely fills the geopod. It's all roots. Your plants can be like, for mother plants, you can keep a mother plant in it for years and never becomes root bound. It's awesome.
And one of, again, you know I love my sayings. One of the sayings I have is, what happens below happens above. So you take care of your roots and your plant is just going to thank you. It's going to look healthy, vibrant, and it's going to give you exactly what you want it to give you.
Exactly. One of my little favorite sayings is bigger roots, bigger fruits.
Bigger roots, big, yeah, I got that right. Bigger roots, bigger fruits.
Yeah.
That's a good saying, I like that. Listen, it's been an absolute pleasure. What I like to do with all of the people that we talk to is tell us about your top tips for growing. It can be anything. If you had one tip to tell our listeners, what would it be?
Yeah, that's a really difficult question.
Oh yeah. I've got to ask one in the
Use Terpinator? I'm not going to get off that easy. You know, in my opinion, the best thing you could ever do for your plants, the best fertilizer in the world is your own breath. Careful attention, watching your plants. You can see every deficiency that's going to happen. You can see when you get pests if you actually pay attention. You know, if you go visit your garden every once in a while, all you do is water, you don't actually read the plants, you're not really going to get very far. You know, it's all about just having a connection with your plants. You know, it might be your source of income. It might also be your hobby, and hopefully it's both. You know, caring about your plants, having that be your stress defeater at the end of the day, and, you know, just paying attention to them and, you know, treating them as your children, I think, is really the most important thing, personally.
Good, excellent. I think our listeners are going to sort of see a bit of a trend appearing here with the tips that these people you've been. The people that we speak to have been growing for 10 years plus, and they're part of big companies. So when they're giving their tips, notice that they're not just going straight to their products. You'll notice that the tips that they're giving is educate yourself, become a better grower by education and reading books, look after your environment, make sure your environment is really key, and also just care a little bit, show your plants some love. And I know it sounds really corny and seedy, but show your plants some love and it really does pay off. And if it's whether it's the physical, biological value of spending time with your plants and breathing and that carbon dioxide coming out your mouth that they absolutely love, or just spending time with them, they will thank you for it.
Can I throw in one more?
Of course you can.
Go get yourself a really good integrated pest management manual. Really nice. There's tons of them out there. You know, you're going to get them through any kind of horticulture classes. I can't remember the name off the top of my head or like the one that I have. But essentially, it's basically a glossary of all the different pests you get, all the different molds you get, all the different rots you get, all of that. Just having that on hand. You don't need to go run to the grocery store and try to show them your leaves, which typically ends in a bad situation. Yeah. You can look it up and you can, you know, by the powers of deduction, find what your problem is and learn how to treat it, you know?
Exactly, and we get back to the fact of just educate, just be willing to learn, and you're going to improve as a grower.
Yeah.
Do you have any books that you prefer with regards to that, or is it just a matter of get onto Amazon and get onto pest prevention and have a little look through there?
I mean, you know, I grew up reading High Times, reading, you know, all the different culture magazines, Ed Rosenthal, Jorge Cervantes. You know, there's so many of them out there. And the thing is, I actually have learned a lot through those, but, you know, just interacting with other gardeners out there. You know, finding other people that you can, you know, have conversations with and actually just share knowledge together. I think that's the most important thing, because a lot of times if you have a problem, one of your friends has already come across that problem, already conquered it, and they're a wealth of knowledge when it comes to that, you know. So that's why I think it's really having a strong circle of friends and fellow growers that you can kind of trust and you can bounce things off of, because, you know, there's a lot of times, you know, think about like vertical gardening. I almost bought a Coliseum and I had a few friends lose their shirts and I didn't. So, you know, I mean, you know, you can learn a lot through your friends. So it's nice to have people like that you can kind of lean on and provide them support when they need it as well.
Awesome. Andrew, it's been an absolute pleasure. I consider you a friend, and we're going to be speaking lots over the next few months. And,
most definitely.
I imagine we're going to have you on the show again, because the podcast with Justin, the podcast with yourself, it's been top quality. I hope the listeners have enjoyed it as much as I've enjoyed doing the podcast. So thank you very much.
And it was my first podcast, so definitely
nice.
Dug it. Thanks so much, Stephen. Thanks, Rick, over there on the controls holding us down. Hopefully you guys don't hear that freestyle, but you know.
Oh, they'll be hearing that freestyle. Okay, we're signing off. We'll be back tomorrow, and we're going to chat with lots of companies. So stay tuned. We'll be with you soon. Thank you very
Lights
much.
out.